Hello, friends. Time to do the next release video. Dot 17 just came out, but you may not know about it because the check for updates is broken. So let's start off right there. If you do help check for updates, you are going to say no updates, and you are going to think I'm up to date. Well, you are not. Now, Halloween season is right upon us, so you might not want to update anyway. For now, you might wait till your Halloween show. You got that little break between Halloween and Thanksgiving for some of you guys, I guess, and Christmas. So you might not want to update now anyway. But if you do, you have to do it manually, and it will involve going to xlights.org and grabbing the download page, and right here, download 24.17. And we will be covering, obviously, in this video, all of the bugs, so I'll be addressing those shortly, but I wanted to get this out of the way that the 17 you have to get here, and quite frankly, any version after this. So if you're at 12, 13, 14, whatever, you will never be able to get to the downloads unless something magical happens behind the scenes. You'll have to come here at least once and get the latest version. And just a note here that there are a few folks that have got the new Snapdragon ARM processors, laptops, and such. Currently, the download does not work with it. Scott has graciously put in a fix that has a branch. I won't get into how to get to that right now, but there is a branch that he's testing, or a few folks are testing. It does appear to work, so stay tuned for that. Initial results from one person was significant improvements on render times, nearly not quite half, but about 40% faster with that machine. Again, that's strictly on one person's experience. We haven't had enough exposure to know for sure, but stay tuned for that. Thank you, Scott, and thank you to the person who brought up the change, so it wasn't as painful as we had thought. Anyway, so back to the release notes. Really, just a bunch of small bugs. Most people couldn't get 16 to work because of this bug here, where there's a crash on the layout panel. Essentially, just to tell you what it was all about, if you went to the layout panel and you had any kind of prop, let me find, especially with moving heads, if it didn't have a protocol down here, this thing, it caused a crash. So that was pretty bad. It was quickly fixed, but you had to go to GitHub to get the nightly branch to get around that because it was broken. The open base show folder was still broken after a couple attempts to fix it. We think we have it now. Kyle has put that fix in. I won't bother demonstrating that. You should know where that is. Fixed looping replay of selection not working with audio. So just to recap, if I was to, I have a test sequence. Anyway, if you clicked on this, you can now replay the section. It was broken there. So that should be working. There's still some really obscure ones with Mac OS, with performances and crash and such. So Dan is still trying to whack those ones away. They're hard to reproduce, but as we figure them out, or as Dan figures them out, he's addressing those. Um, Importing of sequences, there was and I don't have an example here, but here's an example of an alert you would have gotten. When you import a sequence, there was two different things it could flag. It would flag whether or not the imported sequence was of a higher frames per second. It also would flag if the version that it was stored at was higher than what you were running. The thinking being that it may include effects or settings that you do not currently support because you have an older version of xLights running. So I wanted to warn you that that possibility existed. Unfortunately, it didn't take into account an exact match. So if you're running .16 and the sequence was .16, it would flag it as being newer. So that was corrected. By the way, these are just warnings. You can still go ahead and click OK, and you will get the import just like you normally would. So that was just a warning. Um, so back to that. Um, There was an issue fixed with the moving head advance. So when you have in any layout, I think if you right click, and I'm not going to do the exact one, but there's an export, you can export xLights model. So if you have a moving head, it wasn't exporting all of the elements. That's corrected. Scott, with the Hinks picks, there is a special tool set for them. So that's why there's right here where you export a special file that can be placed on a Hinks picks controller, basically to run in standalone mode. So this corrected the audio portion there. So for the Hinks picks people, um, import of old moving heads. So this is here on import. If you were pointing it to an old model prior to the I'm not sure if I have. Oh, I should have it moving heads. So this is, if you look at this, you can see this is a moving head advanced model. If you were trying to import the old DMX moving head, it would crash or not work. We just he's allowed that to import and then convert it into a new moving head advanced effect. So because we totally got rid of the old moving headed concept. Fix crash when upload. Okay, so going back to aliases on strands. So if I was to import a sequence again, let me go back to that screen. This one here. Yeah, we know that. Update aliases using mapping. So if you had created a mapping on a strand level, which is very common, like on a showstopper spinner, or I have like the Canadian equivalent, where you have I have a spinner and a whole bunch of submodels. If I was to place something on here, I don't know if I have really an example, but we'll just put that on there. And if you said update aliases, it would crash because it was putting a model on a submodel, it would crash. So that's been addressed. Fixed display of timeline tags. Fixed display of timeline tags. Hmm. I'm not sure I know what that. Oh, I think this is. Let me cancel out of here. The close. Yes, I want to close. Uh, Timeline tags. So up here, if you didn't know, you can place little timeline tags. So you right click on here, and I want to put a little 0 there. I want to put I want 3 there. You can jump between these. I think there's a shortcut to get to them. Help. Key bindings. I should know this off the top of my head, but I think it's just control and then the number. I think it's just control and 0. Yeah, that takes you to 0. See how the 0 is over here? And I press control 3. It jumps you to number 3. So um, those are timeline tags. And zoom out. Control 0. So originally that code was supposed to shade in the value, and it was not shading in the value, but generating a whole bunch of errors in the log. So it's a minor bug, right? I mean, it's filled in properly, and it's not filling the logs with the error. So that was just a minor bug. Again, I recap, .17, minor bugs, no need to upgrade at this point, but I'm just going through it anyway. Wasatch controllers were added by Scott, so you would find that on the controllers tab, and you would find it under the vendor and the model. Um, More cleanup on the small waveform. So for people who have a small monitor, if you go into preferences, you can reduce the height of this waveform, give you a little more real estate for props. So there was a little more cleanup for that. Just a note, I believe Dan mentioned that he removed the frames per second. So before there used to be FPS number there, and it would show frames per second. It was really just a calculated value. Um, Really wasn't all that meaningful and probably caused a little more concern than it was required. So I believe he dropped that so that just to avoid confusion, because it really doesn't impact anything. Dan did something. I asked Dan about what this was for. He said it's something about allowing FPP to quickly stop and restart FPP because the number of frames in each block was smaller, so it could quickly process them. Pretty technical answer, pretty technical change. It's nothing that should impact anybody here. Default gamma. Especially in Halloween, people like to use gamma. We always toss out the number of 2.2 on your gamma. That allows you to get the oranges and purples. Remember, it will reduce your brightness significantly. You will probably need to bump up your brightness if you make the change. So do check your lights. You should see default gamma on the right here for some controllers. And it says it's for experienced controllers. So if you have an experienced controller, you will find a default gamma on the right-hand side. Otherwise, by the way, otherwise you should be able to go and say highlight a bunch, right click, I think, bulk edit. Hopefully, yeah. There you go. You can bulk edit and change all your gammas there if you'd like. So if you want to go to 2.2 for Halloween, go for it. Reverse submodels when reversing models. This was in an old, very old request. I think it's like 5 years old actually. So if you go into model data, gonna which one have I got? Medium presence. That's a cube model. Let me go this one here. Live demo. Let's see if this works. So say you push the pixels in the opposite way, you would right click, reverse. Now there's a prompt that says you want to also reverse the submodels. There's no way to undo it other than to reverse again. That means if you were to cancel here, the submodels would still be reversed or the submodels would still be reversed. So don't just simply cancel and say, I don't want to reverse it. You really need to reverse it again to get it back to the original and then click OK. That's what the warning's about. So be careful about that. That's especially important for submodels that, you maybe you have a left ear, right ear, or something like that. Anyway, that changes in for those few people that need it. A couple of other requests. Key bindings, again, key bindings are just your way of adding shortcuts to various features. So those are all hiding under the key bindings here. That shows you what it is, but if you want to add your own, they're right here. So there's been, let me bring back the thing, increasing and decreasing the speed, previous and next tags. So we should probably see select the timings, jukebox buttons. There's 5 of those, and those are the 10 timing tags. So jump to the timing tag. So you can create shortcuts to jump around. And there's the jukebox one that was mentioned as well. Again, these are obscure one-off things that were easy enough to put in and low impact, low risk. So we'll put those in. Dan just made this change prior to 17. The thinking being is if you have a large list of controllers here and you're using host names, see how I have got these host names, it would have to go through each one of these serially, one at a time. And if it was timing out, it would take up a lot of time, 10 seconds or whatever for each one to time out. And this way he's doing it all in parallel. So you get a faster startup. It's getting more and more important as people's controller lists get larger and larger and larger. Mac OS, this was a last minute change because of something that was a new library. So anything running Mac OS 10, you're not likely to be able to go forward with xLights here. You're going to have to update, upgrade, switch hardware, whatever. Things are being obsoleted on the Mac side. And that's just a warning. You got to stay up to date on these things. We are still facing, and I'll bring that up here in the in the uh, in the issues ticket, there's a bunch of little one-off Mac issues that we can't seem to, replicate, duplicate. So keep trying to find the causes of those. There is one person that is bringing up Windows 11 versus 10 performance issue. Again, we're trying to figure out the underlying causes of those sort of things. So if you've got any helpful tips on that, or if you're experiencing that and you can provide some insight, please head over to the issue tracker here and make your comments known, and we'll continue to try and improve on it. That is it for 17. remember that you have to get 17 from the download page, which is right here. And for those folks upgrading for the first time this season, you may need this redistributable. If you don't get the redistributable or you don't have it installed, your experience will be it will show an xLights the xLights logo and then just silently die. So if you're seeing that issue, then you need this redistributable, and you will need to reboot your PC after you do that so that xLights can run. Anyway, that's it for this one. Like I said, stay tuned. Probably be a little quiet now coming into the Halloween season, but we're always looking, always trying to improve the software as we go. If you're facing problems, feel free to jump onto the xLight Zoom room, and lots of guys there. Patience, though, please. We're getting quite a few people backed up. We're doing the best we can, and there's only so many helpers. And if you're wanting to help, jump in, help out. There's no there's no magic to who can help on the Zoom room. If you've got an experience or something that can help out, please jump on and you know make yourself known. Anyway, thanks for the video, and see you in the Zoom room.